Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, you don't laugh sometimes, you're gonna cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. Welcome to Inside the Moms Club. I'm your host, Monica Samuels, and I'm here today with my co-host, Julie Orchid. Hello, Julie.
It's good to be here in California.
It is good to be here. We had a great time. A couple of nights ago, we went to the Visionary Women event in Malibu, and it was amazing.
It's a perfect Sunday evening.
It's a group of women who are dedicated to helping women's issues globally, and it was just such an impressive group of women.
It was a powerful evening. It was incredible conversation. Yeah, we definitely had a lot to talk about.
Delicious food. They had a really interesting organization that catered it. They do farm to table, but they do it around the world. So they have this giant table, and they take it all over the world to different locations.
Outstanding in the field was definitely outstanding. I felt honored to be there and to get to experience that with a group of women that make you feel very powerful, that your voice matters.
And it actually, I think it influenced you because we were in Malibu, and so down the beach we saw some people surfing.
Oh, yes.
And last night, Julie dreamt that she was surfing. So I think there's some subliminal thing going on here.
I mean, my arms are kind of sore.
Yeah.
I think that I was I don't even know, but I'm telling you, it was intense.
She got a workout.
What was happening?
And here, you should have seen her on the bed standing there. I didn't know what she was doing.
Please, that is not true.
She and I share rooms when we go on these trips.
Right.
And you learn a lot when you share a room with somebody, but sleeping is a huge thing for people. And I know for me, it's been a struggle because I've read books about it. I watched an entire master class on how to sleep. I mean, I've done all these things. And then about a year or so ago, I thought I had the solution, which was I would turn on Netflix every night onto Seinfeld, and I would fall asleep to episodes of Seinfeld. And it was working.
I mean, you don't know who you're dealing with until you actually room and sleep with someone in a room. And then one time we had to share a bed because that's the only room they had.
Yeah.
So the Seinfeld wasn't working for me. I mean, I love Seinfeld, but falling asleep to it
was not working for her to the point that I had an episode on one night. I was asleep mostly, and she thought she could turn it off because she thought I was asleep. Mm-hmm. And so she sneaks over there, and she nearly got slugged in the face because I was sort of awake, but not really.
Right.
And she took that iPad out of my hand, and I just almost let her have it. I don't even know what I was thinking. It's tough. And then some people snore. not I'm not naming names, but you know that can happen.
That can happen.
And that keeps people awake.
It's a soft purr.
Okay. So we'll talk about that later. But anyway, it can be a struggle. But then I discovered I discovered NuCalm. Yeah. Which I absolutely love, and Julie loves too, because I will tell you the story. That time we had to share that king-size bed. Mm-hmm. Who slept in the middle? But my iPad with the deep sleep program on there, and you said you liked it.
It worked.
It did work.
Yes.
And I think last night, so I was playing it last night for us to sleep, and I think that's why you had such great dreams about surfing. I mean, I'm sorry that it caused you to, you're not in great enough physical shape that it actually See, that's where you got to match your sleep with your actual.
You don't have to tell my secrets that I've never actually been able to get up on, 2 feet to complete the wave, but at least I tried.
Yeah. But so we're very rested and feeling great today, so that's good. And and so now we are so thrilled.
I think we owe it to
so
some people.
Lucky today to have with us two guests. the CEO of NuCalm. It's the first streaming service for your brain.
Yes.
Mr. Jim Poole is here with us. Woo! Yeah.
I love it.
And with him is a prominent licensed clinical psychologist who's known for her pioneering work over the last 30 years in the field of mind-body medicine, Dr. Janet Hranicky. Welcome, Dr. Hranicky. Welcome to the Moms Club. Well, we are, like I said, we are so excited, and I actually do use the NuCalm program, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I've noticed in the press recently that Meghan Markle has been using the NuCalm program. And personally, and I've also been reading a lot going on with the royal family, and I kind of feel like they should all be using it. I think that we could solve a lot of problems.
I feel like there's a lot of stress there.
Yeah. If I know Harry and Charles are going to have a meeting. Can you imagine if they just got a good night's deep sleep in advance and threw on a little focus? And I think they'd be in a lot better shape. So Jim, tell us the NuCalm story. How did it come about? It's like the first patented program like this. Share with us what NuCalm is and how it works.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your travel stories. 2005 was the last time I shared a room with any business executive. We had gone out to dinner, a celebratory dinner. We had struck a big deal. And I had asparagus, and my body can't process some mercaptans and asparagus. Yeah. And I never shared a room again. So maybe that's what you should try, and then you can get separate rooms and you can watch Seinfeld all you want. So the NuCalm story began in 1990, and it began with a brilliant neuroscientist, quantum physicist, Dr. Blake Holloway, who was on a quest to find a natural way to help people resolve stress. Stress is a part of every day. It's a part of every hour of every day. And no one's impregnable to stress, and no one's immune to it. And interestingly enough, as much as we think we're unique and our problems are our own, the human stress response is identical in each human's brain. So 8 billion people today have stress, and the brain processes that stress in the same manner for all of us. And I think that's important for us to understand. But there must be a way to help people down-regulate stress without using drugs. Because drugs and alcohol are very effective at getting you out of acute psychic pain. They do a great job at that. But they have a lot of negative side effects and negative consequences. So our journey began in 1990. And in 2009, we launched at that point, which was a complicated $6,000 FDA Class 3 medical device, which became the first and only patented technology in the world, clinically proven to lower stress and improve sleep without drugs. So we do this in a very advanced fashion, but the key is that it's easy to use. Yeah. So no one really cares about the complexity of physics and mathematics and a software that lies underneath music. Very few people would even understand what we do. But to the end user, like you, when you're listening to deep sleep in your bedroom, you listen to music. Underneath the music, we're carrying a signal to the brain, and we're dialing your brain either up or down. And so every day, I just got out of a 20-minute power nap. Every day, I find time in my day to completely erase the stress response out of my brain, my physiology, my emotion, my mentality. And I don't suffer the consequence of burning calories in fear and worry and anticipatory anxiety. You know, our head is amazing. And in between our ears is so much chaos all the time, static, a lot of conversations going on, little triggers, other people's stress, imposing their will on our stress. And so every day I take that opportunity. I lie down in my bed. I put an iPhone and a headphone and an eye mask, and my mind wanders. I find myself drifting in out of like a lucid dream state. Yeah. And then 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, I get up. I feel amazingly present and conscious. I feel grounded, and I'm ready to go. Yeah. And I don't deal with stress. It's hard to explain, but Monica, you've been using NuCalm for a while, and you'll notice that each day that you have the habit of power nap or rescue during the day and deep sleep at night, each day there's a subtle accumulation where things that normally would have agitated you or created stress for you, they don't anymore. Your brain is processing information differently because we've taken what's called the reptile brain. Many of us have heard of the reptile brain or the primordial midbrain or the amygdala. It's literally an almond-shaped piece in our midbrain that manages a lot of people's behavior. In NuCalm and in other mindful practices, the goal is to take the power away from the reptile brain, take the power away from the almond-shaped amygdala, and redistribute the resources to your forehead, because this is where we think, this is where our patience is, our presence, our personality, our character, our executive functioning, our logic. This here, our forehead, is what separates us from primates. So when we're agitated or stressed, all the resources leave our forehead and they go to the almond in the midbrain, and the midbrain then takes all this information and puts us in a state of anxiety or anticipatory anxiety or stress or fear, and our brainwave frequency increases. And we get stuck in this rabbit hole and we can't get out, because once the amygdala takes control in a fight-flight pattern, it doesn't allow resources to go back to your forehead. So it started then, and today it is no longer a $6,000 highly regulated FDA Class 3 medical device. Today it is in the form of a mobile app. We were not going to help enough people selling a complicated medical device to an exclusive group of military, cancer patients, pilots, doctors, and professional athletes. So we spent 6 years and millions of dollars to take all of our science and put it in a mobile app to make it easy for people to use our product, and so they can take care of their own stress.
So putting it in the simplest form for the moms out there who are all stressed out, one of the questions that I've gotten when I've used NuCalm is, well, they'll say, well, I use an app, or I just go to a podcast and turn on white noise. So NuCalm is patented and it has a program that's actually, it affects your brain in a way that you don't even realize what it's doing something in your brain that you're not aware of. You're hearing music, but it's that, which is different than these other things that are out there that are available. Is that correct?
There's no other science, there's no other app that brings 30 years of patented, clinically proven neuroscience. And it's true that is, for all the grandiosity of our brain and all the amazing things that the human brain can do, we fall victim to hope all the time. I want to believe there's a silver bullet. I want to believe that white noise can help me. I want to believe that watching Seinfeld episodes can help me. None of those are true. The blue light emanating from the screen is activating your brain. The noise, white noise or music, the human brain cannot change its mental state listening to music. It's far too complicated for that. The brain will pick up any pattern of music and get bored with it. Think about when you go to the gym and say there's a certain type of music you like to get yourself pumped up for the gym. You're doing cardio. For me, it might be AC/DC. The first few songs, I'm amped up. But then I start to fatigue. Why? Because my brain has figured out the pattern and says, hey, this band's songs sound all the same. It can't change my state. So let's take a step back. Let's think about evolution. And let's say from the dawn of humankind, humans have either discovered or created ways to change their mental state. We're not even aware of this. But today in 2023, if I'm feeling mentally lethargic in the afternoon, I might go get a coffee, espresso, Red Bull, Monster Energy. If I'm feeling psychic pain or I'm struggling, I may have a glass of wine to slow down my frequency. If I'm feeling depressed, I might take an antidepressant. If I'm feeling anxious, I may take an anti-anxiety. If I'm having trouble with sleep, I may take a sleeping pill. Think about how pedestrian it is that the human species relies on all this external stimulation. Now, it's not magic. If you woke up this morning and you were mentally lethargic and you had coffee, it's not magic. Increase your brainwave frequency. So we're not using magic either. We're simply using physics to present your brain with a signal that either slows it down, like rescue, or amps it up, like ignite, or slows it really slow for delta. So we're using your ears as a carrier to present your brain with a signal to gently guide you to a state that you select.
Which is very, very cool. And you're right, because like when I exercise in the morning now, I turn on Ignite and I can almost feel myself feeling more energetic. And then when I use deep sleep, now you don't always have the NuCalm app available to take a power nap or whatever. So at some point, you also might have to take the mind-body consciousness. You might have to, like Dr. Hraniky's work is really involved with you taking some charge yourself. Like how do I, for example, I have anxiety problems. I get on an airplane and I happen to have panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And I can't jump up and run off the plane, and I don't have my eye shades or whatever use my NuCalm program right there when I'm sitting there.
Right.
So what are some of the things that people can do, Dr. Hranicky, to lower their stress when they don't have those tools available?
Good question, Monica. And I think there's so many things, and I think it often starts first with really understanding our programming, the imprinting of the modeling we got when we were little growing up. And I love the fact that this is a mom's audience, because I think as moms, we have a lot of cross references, if you will, to be and act certain ways that sometimes come in conflict with one another. And that alone can create a stress response where we find ourselves out of balance more. Mm-hmm. So I think the simple ways are really putting some time in each day just to stop and do nothing more, even to catch our breath, to take a few minutes of taking in some deep breaths, holding them, letting them out. And there are many forms of these breathing exercises that you guys can reference, even just Google them and find examples of them. But they really do quickly shift the nervous system into what we call a parasympathetic state, which allows a person to really get out of that fight or flight that Jim was talking about, that taps into that survival mechanism that we're all wired with. And I think the notion of fun, I think having time in each day, because when I look at it as a mom, and you guys out there in the watching or listening now, know that your kids really want more than anything your fun, to have fun with you, to have energy. And what that requires is an ability to really have enough balance and have enough programming going on, that there are healthier beliefs that allow each of us and all of you to really take the time for oneself. And as I see it in with the mom's audience, it's awesome to have like NuCalm technology. And when you pair it with really shifting maybe even just a few beliefs, a few thought patterns that might interfere with you even taking a rest break to even use a technology like NuCalm that is so powerful, just to even take a belief that, hey, wait a minute, the most important thing I can do in being a mom is also to take care of myself, to protect my resiliency, my sparkle, my aliveness, my vitality, my ability to have enthusiasm, because it takes energy. Yeah. And it takes energy to be a mom. It takes energy to live life. And in my particular expertise, I'm an MD, PhD, so I deal with the holistic approach to getting well, with cancer as a specific specialty area. I really see the important essential nature of bringing fun and play into that, because it takes energy to get better.
So, Dr. Hranicky, this brings me, in my past life, I am still a nurse, an RN. And so I did read that you have taught, doctors, nurses. And so a lot of times we feel compelled that how do you teach your patient to be present in what's happening? We can't cure it, obviously. We want to be able to help and to make them present and, not survive in that, fight or flight, which I used to live in a daily basis. So I love when you guys say, hey, this really helps. NuCalm and what you also teach helps you to be present. So what are you telling some of the medical staff that are helping these patients that, are really ill, and how to have them have a better outlook?
Well, that's a great question too. And it starts, I think, with our own beliefs about the possibilities of in healthcare and medicine of the ability of a person to get better.
Yeah.
The ability of a person to be able to reignite their life force and the infinite potential for healing. Because if we lose those concepts as healthcare providers,
Right.
then we're really losing a lot, as I see it, in terms of the potential of the human being. And I think it starts with some fundamental concepts and beliefs that, number one, illness is a signal to change. It's usually a direct signal that someone is a bit off balance, maybe has some things to resolve, some major stress issues to really shift from. Interestingly enough, in the field that I work in, the number one stressor worldwide, from the radiation oncologist who trained me in this work a long time ago, found in his international work, was miscommunication with one's spouse or significant other. And that's really a big deal when you look at it, because, again, being a mom's show, and we're looking at how do we help people begin to really break up this stress response. One of the key deals is to really look at, are there some things that would help me to be able to really resolve any kind of miscommunication that's going on, so that I'm freed up
Right.
to be present.
Right.
And I think we all know that personal relationships can really impact us in terms of our energy and excitement and resiliency. So it's kind of fun when we can look at the power we've got to really shift those and to really charge ourselves. And that's where I see the NuCalm technology is so really important in today's world, is that it allows a way for a person to charge themselves without having to work so hard to do it or figure it out.
Sure.
It actually gives people a gift to be able to do that by not having to think about it, by not having to resolve problems, but by becoming fresh and bringing, oneself fresh again back to life, kids, spouse, family, work. That solves a lot.
Yep.
I think that is an amazing tool, and I wish we'd had it a long time ago. I'm glad we have it now, because listening to you talk about that, it reminds me of my own personal experience. My mother was diagnosed with cancer when she was at a very stressful time in her life. And the doctor, even before the diagnosis was made, the doctor blamed my father, wrote a letter, said, "I think your illness is actually your husband," because she was in a lot of stress. She was diagnosed with epithelioid hemangioletheoma. It's diagnosed like 300 cases in the world every year. My father-in-law is a doctor at MD Anderson, said she's got like 3 years. She's a woman of great faith, and she channeled all of her energy into getting well and having a belief she could get well. And her cancer went away on its own, and she became a case study. So I really love what you do. I think it's amazing. And I wish back in those days, because my mom was under a tremendous amount of stress, and the life of a mom is, you are dealing with your spouse, you're dealing with your kids, you're dealing with teachers at school. Talk about stress. That can
stress.
Be the principal who's calling you in because of your kid. You live under constant stress. And what I like about what Jim said earlier, we've kind of programmed ourselves into a certain lifestyle. And I learned this particularly, or became more thoughtful of it, when I was in Italy for the month of June. My husband and I spent the whole month of June in Italy. I lived an entirely different lifestyle that month. I changed how I was living. And by changing how I was living, it was kind of funny, because I went back and I was drinking a lot of wine and limoncellos and eating pasta and all this, but I was exercising a lot. I wasn't watching TV. I was doing a lot of things, was de-stressing myself. I was using NuCalm also to sleep. I had a different pattern to my life, and I had to do a blood test for my endocrinologist, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a disaster. She told me that was the best blood work I'd had in 2 years. And I really do think...
So you're saying Italy and NuCalm.
Yeah, go live in Italy. NuCalm is what I'm trying to say here. Everybody go to Italy. No, what I'm saying is what Jim was saying earlier. We get into patterns. Our pattern is I have to have 4 cups of coffee in the morning just to get started. I always drink my Diet Coke for lunch because that wakes me up. I have to take my half a Xanax to go to sleep. I mean, people start doing these things that are medicating themselves and they're living. If you had the NuCalm app and you just made it a practice, which I do now. So I get up in the morning, I exercise every morning. Mm-hmm. I turn on Ignite.
Yeah.
I'm going better than I have in a long time. I sleep. I do a power nap. But I also do some of the things that Dr. Hraniky's saying. And even to the point of what you were saying earlier about anxiety, I learned, because I looked online, I learned all the little breathing things that you can do to calm yourself, to be in control of yourself. But one cool thing that I read about is if you're having an anxiety attack and you touch your face, like you tap your face with the opposite finger on your face, it'll calm your body. And so I was having one of those attacks on a plane, and I told my husband, I got to get out of here. And I did that, and all of a sudden I felt better.
So this is the mind.
Did that just take my mind off of it, or what is that? But there's just a different way of thinking and living that I think could help all of us. Mm-hmm. And I particularly love Dr. Hranicky. I also see that you do something all the moms out there will love about anti-aging. The younger you.
Yeah.
I love. Tell us just a little bit about that. And I'm going to be taking notes here. So.
Well, interestingly enough, this whole concept of anti-aging or regenerative medicine, longevity medicine is called several different things depending upon who you're speaking with. One of the biggest aspects that actually increases the aging process is chronic stress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we find that, people are going all over, taking all sorts of things, supplements, doing all sorts of activities to interface and turn and alter the aging process. And yet sometimes we can do those things and be doing them in a way that actually creates more stress as we're doing those things that we're trying to de-stress with. Being more gentle with oneself, giving oneself rest and balance, fun, joy, having values again in this culture that maybe we've gotten a little too far away from. Even the notion of that it's okay to rest, that's almost become like a dirty word because it's like we're not productive if we're resting.
Right.
And I love bringing back just simple things into that whole concept of regeneration.
Right.
And now Jim will tell you again, and in terms of NuCalm and the deep sleep program, why it's so important is that this deep sleep is where cells get to regenerate and make healthy cells. And so metabolically, sleep is one of the most important things to restore health. And again, with longevity. And so it may be more simple than we sometimes think. And beginning to start with the simple things I really like by beginning to expand our notion of rest and sleep as one of the biggest health components that we have accessible to us, just like air and sunshine, water, those kind of things. And the concept of laughter. When you were saying, Monica, about tapping your face, when you started to get anxious on the plane, I started to realize the important physiology of just smiling. Oh, yeah. So the next time, if you're on the plane and you start to feel anxious, tapping your face and then adding a big smile, because what it does is it tricks in a way that reptilian brain Jim was mentioning into really perceiving, hey, everything's good. You're safe. It's all okay. You can calm down. Yeah. And interestingly enough, that in and of itself adds a whole regenerative effect into our physiology.
That is great.
So I have a question for Jim, and I have to ask it because I want to tell you that, Jim, as moms, I'm not inside the Moms Club, and 1 million moms in America, we are crazy about athletics. And so you've talked about pro athletes and NuCalm. And I know that we would love to hear a story of success on what we have going in, these professional athletes, these college athletes. We talked a little bit about some football beforehand. But the thing about this, I have been obsessed with these documentaries on these fascinating athletes out there. Everyone thinks that it may be a little bit easy to do this, and it's not. And they need all the help they can get. So can you tell me a story that about a professional athlete, or even just an athlete in general, using NuCalm, and what they have gotten out of it? Because we're a little competitive over here.
I'm very competitive.
Since 2011, we've
Yes.
worked with 56 professional sports teams. We also host the NuCalm Recovery Lounge at the U.S. Open Tennis Championships for 5 years in a row.
Nice.
We work with golf, tennis. The moniker in golf is "if you think, you stink."
Yeah.
So you really want to rely on your muscle memory and your training, not on your mind. Okay. I think one of the biggest, coolest examples we saw of a profound shift was a female UFC fighter who notoriously had two areas of high anxiety. One, flying. If you're a professional athlete, you better get over that pretty quickly. It's going to tire you out. Number two, before she went into the cage, she gassed out. Her cortisol levels were too high. She gassed out in the locker room. So when she got into the cage, if she didn't knock out her opponent in the first 3 or 4 minutes, the lactic acid, she was done.
Yeah.
We got her a NuCalm, 7 or 8 years ago. She became one of the best fighters of all time, if not the.
Yeah.
Wow.
Simply by allowing her access to her training and not having her monkey mind sabotage everything. So, Monica, when you were talking about entering into a panic attack on a plane, your panic and your amygdala feeds on the idea of panic. Your brain is looking for things to worry about. That is its food source. You create a distraction here, and that's all you needed to do. To Jan's point, as soon as you smile, you release oxytocin.
Yeah.
This thing changes your mental. So when I say there's static in the 5 or 6 conversations behind our eyes, that is pivotal to our ability to be present. I love moms. I love my mom. I love my wife of 30 years. I love our 3 girls that my wife has done an incredible job with. But one of the fallacies is that when you're struggling, you fake it till you make it, but everybody in your life knows you don't have what it takes to fake it till you make it. Everybody can pick up on your stress when you're stressed. And every mom out there thinks there's a facade here that they hide it, but every child picks it up, your pets pick it up, and your spouse picks it up. The key to me when I think about moms is we talk about work-life balance. I think that's too macro. Work-life balance is tangible and easy. The balance is between you and your self-care and you and your ability to take care of everybody else. Yeah. Your brain is different than a man's brain, and your responsibilities are greater than a man's responsibilities. That's life.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to be a man. It's a simple way to live. If moms do not self-regulate, they think that no one's picking up when they're having a bad day. Everybody is.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
And you've taken the stigma. NuCalm has taken the stigma out of saying, you can rest. Like, why is this such a big deal for people? And then this is what I love about it. These power naps that you talk about. The mind that you're talking about, Dr. Hranicky, and what you say to yourself, and the smile. The smile releases an enormous amount. Monica and I make each other laugh all the time.
We did.
I mean,
That's how that's our motto. If we don't laugh sometimes, you're going to cry.
Well,
so we
darn
try
true.
to laugh a lot. I think it's interesting that we spent so much of our time in the last couple of decades focused so much on, like you said, the body. Like, I have to go work out. I have to run. I have to, keeping your body healthy is all you need. But I love that we're now focused on the brain and the mind and what really regulates the rest of the body.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely going to make huge difference. And a lot of people that are fans of the show know that my son had a traumatic brain injury, is recovering from that. And so there's so many amazing things that NuCalm does for people in that situation too. Or you all did some things with NASA or astronauts. I mean, and people going into surgery. I mean, there's so many amazing ways that it's been used. Can you?
As a nurse, Julie, you'll appreciate this. We've used NuCalm in over 2 million surgical procedures, replacing general anesthesia.
Yeah.
People being operated on while listening to the physics in an eye mask. That's how powerful rescue is. To the military side, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Quantico training the FBI. The FBI House of Rescue Team in SWAT. For 13 years, we've worked with the Navy SEALs, the Special Forces, Border Patrol, the FBI, you name it. And for them, it's about expedited recovery without drugs. Because in the intensity of a mission or a hostage or whatever the scenario is, it's a reactionary cascade of cortisol. And if you're feeling self-doubt, confusion, you don't know exactly what you're supposed to do, somebody gets hurt. So the stress response, even with these tough military and police, is real. And the degradation of not managing your stress and the accumulation of chronic stress and poor sleep gets the better of all of us. Yeah. It's really simple for the females out there, because we live in a culture, Monica, you're right. We think externally because our brain is tangible. I can see your body, but inside I need to see your stress. And if you don't resolve your stress, stress will get the better of you. When you get into menopause, cortisol and the constant stress hormone keeps visceral fat. You can't lose weight. You can run across the United States. You're not losing fat when your visceral organs are holding on to it because of stress.
Well, that must be what it is.
Stress.
Because I ran across the U.S. and I'm still.
I totally say the same thing.
Well,
at the
we
same
have
time.
some women that have some questions for you. Our Zoomer moms have a lot of questions because this is so interesting. Welcome, Zoomer moms.
All right.
Woo!
I think I know Jennifer's question.
Well,
I think I know her well enough to know it's coming.
Well, let's introduce Jennifer. Then, Jennifer, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and do you have any questions for Jim and Dr. Hranicky?
Hi, this is such an interesting conversation. Jennifer Marsh from Austin, Texas. I have 2 kids, one for this year, one exchange child from Norway, and it's been fascinating, honestly, to watch sort of someone from a different culture, a child who's the same age as mine from a different culture, come here. He is a very calm child. Like you just cannot get him ruffled, and it's so interesting because it's just. My son's pretty, for an American kid, he's pretty calm and, but he's one of those kids who's like serene on the surface, but actually like pedaling like hell underneath. So, and I constantly am trying to pick up on his potential stress. So that causes stress in me, and it's like this weird silent feedback loop. So, to me, I understand how it would be incredible to be able to come at it with a calm and resolved mindset, like sort of regulate my own emotions first, to be more open to whatever he's wanting to release. But if you're a stressed person and you're introduced to another person who is like below the surface stress, as you say, like that we may look like we're not stressed, but we actually are, and they can pick up on it. I'm wondering like how we break that loop where like the kid's stressed and the mom's stressed, but we're all pretending like it's okay. Like right now we're applying to college, which is a very good example of like baseline stress is quite high until all the applications get turned in. But we're all sort of like trying to like calmly walk through the day. I wonder what your thoughts are about like a way to sort of break the cycle for the mom and the kid, where we're sort of like in denial of the constant stress that sort of lives baseline in our life.
Jen, let me take this at the outset. For me, obviously, it's NuCalm for each of you. A lot of work with college students, because when you go through puberty, you're hormonally dysregulated, and it compromises your sleep for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And then you go through menopause, and you're hormonally dysregulated again. So there's a lot of things against us on the hormone side. I would recommend really simple, open dialogue. I'd sit down with my son and say, hey, we're in a stressful time. Mm-hmm. There's a couple times in your life that's stressful when you transition from elementary school to middle school to high school, and now we're in a stressful time. I know there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on the community, your friends, and I'm here as a sounding board to hear you out. I'm not you. I'm not going to college for you. I'm going to here to support you and guide you. If we push, we build a wall and we lose that communication. It's really about trust and vulnerability, and just open that dialogue. Hey, this is a stressful period. We're going to get through it. I trust you and I love you, and I can't wait to see you be successful. And I'm here throughout this whole, and be open. Share with me your concerns. Share with me what's bothering you. If we listen, right? Silent and listen are spelled with the same letters. We in the human species love to do this. We don't listen enough. I love when my child won't shut up, won't even get to the point. I'm like, I don't know what endorphins you're on right now, but I love just listening to chaos with no point to the story, because it means that we're engaged and we're making a connection. Connect with your son and let him know it's okay. The stress you're feeling, the sleepless nights, the worry, the SATs, the this and that, the COVID. There's so many elements to create stress. They don't need to feel judged by their parents, and they need to feel like there's a safe, vulnerable place for them to speak freely with you.
Yeah.
That's great advice. And I try and live by the mantra of, and I guess it came from Ted Lasso, which is like, don't judge, just be curious.
Yeah.
And so I try my best just to be curious about what he's going through and see if I can support him in that, knowing that I can't possibly really understand what his day is like.
Right.
Helen, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You see, I've made a little costume change here. Welcome to the Moms Club, and tell us a little about yourself. Do you have any questions for Dr. Hranicky or Mr. Poole?
Oh, yes. Do I have questions? I'm Helen Savage, and I've got a 12-year-old daughter. I live in Arlington, Virginia. And so the last 2.5 years, and actually really 4 years, have been super stressful. 4 years ago, I shattered my ankle, multiple surgeries, and then an emergency surgery, first day of vacation, more surgery after the ankle. And then 2.5 years of taking care of a friend who passed away, my elderly mother. So all this to say, I've got a lot of stress that's been going on. And on top of it, I'm looking for a new job. So my question is I've developed in the last 2 or 3 years, very bad case of tinnitus or tinnitus. And I'm now decided that it's time for me to focus on myself, because I've already got anxiety and stress issues. And this is, I've just got to do something about it. So I've been seeing an acupuncturist. I'm going to see a neuropathic physician who also does energy work. And my question is to both of you, have you worked with people who have struggled with tinnitus? And for an example, right now I've got, cicadas basically screaming in my head. That's what it sounds like. And does NuCalm, have any of your subscribers talk to you about help with tinnitus?
We've had great success with tinnitus, and it's alarming how many people have it. Now, tinnitus is a very complex disease, even though it seems minimal compared to, a long-term chronic illness. But there's a vestibular aspect to it. But what we do know is this: your stress response increases the frequency of the tinnitus and the intensity of your experience. NuCalm is not going to resolve the vestibular activity that created the disease state. NuCalm will resolve the stress that's creating the symptoms, the frequency, and the intensity. Similar to a migraine, similar to any type of disease state like multiple sclerosis. There was a story, this gentleman had multiple sclerosis. He was a DJ with 11 million followers and had to retire. And I said, so before you had MS and you were stressed out, what'd you do? He said, I fake it till I make it. Now when I'm stressed, my left leg won't work. The direct correlation of stress to the disease and the symptoms is clear. We will handle the stress aspect. Okay?
Great. Yeah. The acupuncturist I saw said that she can tell that I have all these things that have just built up into my head, and they're coming out basically in the form of tinnitus. And I had, nobody had kind of explained that to me, in those kind of terms. So great. Well, I will be subscribing, I guess.
Well, I know Dr. Hranicky is humble. She is an angelic force of nature. I've never
Yes.
seen
Oh, yeah.
someone of her intellect and her passion, but she has an expertise in what's called psychoneuroimmunology and the relation between the emotional health and well-being of the individual and the disease state. I would say this, Helen, you're very fortunate that as your body is looking for a surrender flag, it didn't choose cancer.
Yeah.
It chose tinnitus. But it is begging for help. And you said you've had a 4-year cascade of events, but at the same time, commensurate with your issues, your daughter is nearing puberty if she's not already in it. So you have a lot of complexity going on, and your body and your soul is begging for a pattern interrupt to take care of.
You basically hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's exactly how I feel. I've made appointments. I'd been seeing a neurologist and found out I've got a C6 pinched nerve. So I've now got to start PT for that. So I've got PT 1 day a week for the pinched nerve, 1 day a week for the ankle. And it just feels like it's all come to a head. And I am now just have got to do something about it.
C6 is dangerous too, because C6 is where paralysis is the result. It also is challenging your breath, and your breath is what you use to communicate. So yeah, you have a lot going on, but all of these are solvable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very encouraging, because some mornings I wake up and I feel like,
it feels all too
where do I
overwhelming.
begin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
And I would say, Ellen, along the same lines Jim was just saying, is let this be your friend. Let this, in a way, this is your biofeedback. And it can be a beautiful signal, because you can use it to look at and adjust some of your emotions, thoughts, behaviors by looking at those times that you feel better and those times that you feel worse. And I would also play with the concept. Are there things that are not good for me to hear right now? And that may sound a little strange, but I think that anytime we begin to look at what the obstacles are that are presenting, if we can just embrace them and go, you know what, it's interesting. I'm having this issue with hearing things, and it's a nuisance, and I want it to stop. But is it acting as a distraction for me in some way that I'm overthinking and maybe underfeeling? I would just play with it.
That's great advice as well. Thank you both so much. Gosh, what an excellent podcast today.
Yeah.
Really great.
Wealth of information.
I have one last question about NuCalm, which I know we all saw Meghan Markle wearing the disc on her wrist. And I know that doesn't work. Well, I saw it. I know that doesn't work for everything, like deep sleep. That's not supposed to be part of that. What is that for? How does that work? I know because I read some articles after she did it, and they said, "Oh, you just wear a disc on your wrist," and they had no idea. That's not it. That's not what it is by itself. Can you explain really quickly what that is and how that works?
Yes. Okay. So your brain and your body communicate in 2 ways: chemical messaging and electrical messaging. When we were doing the work in surgery, we were doing work in trauma, cancer, addiction. We wanted to bring what you could call a tank to a knife fight. We wanted to bring everything we had to make sure that the brain didn't have an escape route. So early on, 12 years ago, we had 3 chewable tablets and a stimulation device. We're trying to present the brain with GABA. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA offsets adrenaline. It's the balance our body naturally has. So then we moved to a transdermal cream, and we had a stimulation device. That stimulation device was a highly regulated FDA Class 3 medical device. For us to get out of the regulatory path, we had to find a way to present your brain with GABA without needing the stimulation device. That biosignal processing disc has the frequencies of GABA on the disc, and it is designed to enable your body to stop secreting adrenaline very quickly and predictably. When your body has GABA and the receptor sites are open to GABA, it interrupts and stops your adrenal cortex. You're not creating a lot of adrenaline. So in a clinical environment, in cancer treatment with Dr. Hranicky, we'll be working at the Comprehensive Cancer Wellness Program on Monday down in Palm Beach, Florida. In trauma, in addiction, in military and professional athletes, they use the clinical strength NuCalm. For rescue, power nap, and flow state, they use the disc. So clearly, Megan had just done a rescue session and kept the disc on. The disc is like having a glass of wine with no cognitive impairment. If you know you're going to have a tough day, or if you're having a bad day, a lot of people leave the disc on. The disc by itself will not do the trick. The disc is like the relish on a hot dog. You don't eat the relish, right?
Yeah.
You eat the hot dog with the relish on top.
Yeah.
It is an accessory. Now, all the buzz happened was amazing, but it was a redirect and it was confusing the marketplace because they thought this disc, well, that disc isn't a miracle.
No.
It's simply a way to present your brain with a nutrient called GABA. So it is a accessory to NuCalm and is for clinical strength. It is not NuCalm.
Great.
NuCalm is in that physics that you listen to.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying that, because, you know, in the world we live in now, some people just think, oh, that's a fashion thing. Oh, well, that's something we should all wear. We'll all feel better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. Well, this has been an amazing show. We have learned so much, and we are so thrilled that you all could join us today. Can you share with us, lastly, where they can find NuCalm and the work of Dr. Hranicky, where we can find you on social media?
www.nucalm.com. Now, we got a treat. On September 1st, we launched something called a free trial. So NuCalm sounds like incredible and too good to be true. Trust me, it's better than it even sounds. It simply works. But it may not be right for you today in your life. You may not want to carve out time. I don't know. It's up to you. Not my place. So a free trial gives you 7 days free access, and we guide you to the key elements of stress management and sleep quality. And it's easy to use. Rescue, eye mask, headphone, mobile app, deep sleep, simply a mobile app and a speaker. So NuCalm.com, check it out, try the free trial, join the NuCalm family, and take care of yourselves.
That is great. And Dr. Hranicky, if you want to be a younger you, where do we learn more about your work?
Well, you know, I would say go to Instagram Cancer Wellness Program.
Nice.
That's probably the best place to really get all the updates and follow us and be part of this international community. And we integrate the regenerative anti-aging concepts into what we do in healthcare. So thank you all. It's been a great day.
Well, thank you. We've enjoyed it. And
learned so much.
We have learned a lot. And you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Inside the Moms Club, and on the web, InsideTheMomsClub.com. I can't believe this has gone really fast, and as always, and has been completely enjoyable and informative. But we will be back next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. Thank you so much for spending all your me time with us today. We will see you next time. Oh, don't forget our motto.
That's right.
If you don't laugh sometimes, what's going to happen? You're going to
cry.
Don't cry,
So
moms. Keep laughing out there. And we'll see you next time inside the Moms Club.